Part 42. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 413. The other side. The player with the ID Changkong is on the way to find ghosts. His name is Wang Hai, and he has been involved in the horror game for nearly 3 years. He is obviously in his 40s, but he looks like he is about to die soon. He has a haggard figure, sunken eyes, and high cheekbones. This is a sign of an impending supernatural resurgence. If there is no accident, the evil ghost in his body will soon revive, and when the supernatural backlash occurs, he will die miserably. The only solution is to transform yourself into an alien. To do this, he came to the vampire's castle. At this moment, he was in a very good mood. In just 3 days, relying on the help of supernatural props, he has found 3 ghosts born in the lunar calendar of the lunar year. Although he is still a bit far away from the goal of 999, after becoming a blood servant, his ghosts revived. The situation has also been alleviated. After spending a year and a half here, he is sure to complete the hidden mission. And maybe it won't take that long. Just thinking about it? From the corner of his eye, Wang Hai secretly glanced at the white-haired figure wearing a tuxedo. That's the butler of the vampire castle. When the dungeon master fell asleep, everything in Rose Manor was taken over by him. At the same time, this great butler is also a terrifying existence that is infinitely close to the top ghost king. With this help, he only needs to find qualified ghosts, and the other party will personally suppress them. Efficiency skyrocketed. Maybe in less than 3 months, he will be able to complete the hidden mission, obtain the blood source given by the dungeon master here, and transform himself into a real vampire. By the time, his problem of the ghost's resurgence will be completely solved. It is not impossible to become the first supernatural person today. Wang Hai, who was thinking about a bright future and looking excited, followed the butler back to Rose Manor. Prepare to sacrifice the sacrifices you get to the dungeon master. At the same time, Shen Jian has also arrived at the cave beneath the Rose Manor based on the information from the eldest lady Shang Guanyat. There is an altar in the cave. The strong smell of blood assaulted his nostrils. See it? The black and white impermanent who followed him said in surprise, I had heard that the owner of the vampire castle fell into a deep sleep, but I didn't expect it to be true. There is not even a trace of supernatural reaction here. Sir, do we have to dig deep to find out where the other party is? The words just fell. A dark wind blew out of thin air. A terrifying supernatural oppression swept out. At the same time, a bloody light spread. Above the cave, an upside-down coffin was revealed. The black coffin opens. A vampire wearing medieval-style clothing opened his scarlet eyes. That moment, the air seemed to have become thicker. Yin-chi fluctuations belonging to the top ghost king level enveloped the entire place. I am the vampire count, who dares to make trouble here? The words fell. An even more terrifying supernatural reaction occurred, filling the entire cave. Heart-stopping. Black and white Vuchang's face suddenly turned pale. Damn it! Didn't it mean that the supernatural land here had fallen into dormancy due to a battle and needed blood sacrifice to revive? It doesn't look like something is wrong with Tama. He was clearly a top ghost king in his prime. It's over, it's over. Scammed. The thought of this. Black and white Vuchang immediately looked at Shen Jian for help. This is really a fight between gods. If they had known this, the 2 ghost kings would not have forced themselves to show off. Shen Jian. His eyes were strange. Vampire count. Current status, weak, panicked, frightened and angry. See this. Shen Jian stared at the dungeon master. Apparently, the other party is only revived but not restored, otherwise there would not be such a status bar display. Everything shown now is just to scare off intruders. Impermanence cannot be seen in black and white. But in his perception, the vampire count in front of him could only reach the level of a ghost king. The other side. The vampire count who woke up from the black coffin was also furious. Horse riding. Not long after he had regained his spiritual power, but before his strength could be restored, he was approached by a combination of two ghost kings and a human. What the hell is going on? Where is the chief steward he identified? Is this how the other party protects him? The enemies are all humming crystallized, and you are still here at Abba Abba. The vampire count appears to be suppressing the crowd with force, but he is actually quite calm on the inside. But he couldn't say. Can't even show it? He has seen it? The two invading ghost kings were nothing to be afraid of, but the human was very strange. Under the supernatural pressure of his top ghost king level, not only was his face expressionless, he even stared at him with an inexplicable expression. He looked like he had already seen through him. Think of this. The vampire count continued to show off his momentum. The whole body exuded the supernatural fluctuation of he is very strong, don't mess with him, and the eerie and deathly hoarse sound echoed in the cave. I am the master of the vampire castle. Anyone who breaks into this place will die. Hear this. The black and white faces are full of ghosts. Trembling all over. I almost couldn't help but run away. An attack by a top ghost king is no joke. It will kill people. You want to try? Shenjian raised his eyebrows. He looks like he is watching your performance quietly. Count Vampire. Grass. Could it be that this human being really saw through it? Impossible. His aura was truly at the top level of a ghost king. Even the two little ghost kings couldn't see any flaws. How does a human being tell the difference? Scam him. This human being is so cunning. Then. The vampire count took a step forward. Scarlet eyes flashed, and ferocious fangs were revealed. Humans who dare to show such contempt for noble vampires are seeking death. GG, do you know that princes, generals, and prime ministers would rather have the seed? Shenjian had a strange smile on his face. He took out the morning stick from his body. Princes, generals, would you rather have the seed? The vampire count frowned. Are you trying to say that as a humble human being, even if you die, you have to challenge a noble vampire to gain greater fame? His voice was cold, and his scarlet eyes revealed terrifying murderous intent. Coupled with his top ghost king aura, it gives people a full sense of oppression. The black and white Vuchang on the side no longer dared to raise his head. Want to cry but no tears. High-end bureau. This one is still a high-end game. First he met Shenjian, then Guihua, and now he has a head-on confrontation with the vampire count. Which of these three people can easily crush them? And they met together. Ah! What did you say? I'm asking you, do you have the guts? If so, don't scream later. Say it. Shenjian picked up the morning stick and rushed forward. Count Vampire. Damn it! Is this how you understand ancient Chinese literature? You will know how to translate. See this. The vampire count's face turned green. He hurriedly shouted, wait for humans, He didn't finish his sentence. Shenjian had already hit him with a morning stick. Stick to the face in greeting. Hit the pain point. The beating made the owner of the vampire castle run away with his head in his arms, screaming in agony. After the battle between the vampire count and Guihua, they were both seriously injured, but Guihua's injuries were more serious and he couldn't even be revived. Although the vampire count has recovered, his strength has not been restored. He still needs a blood sacrifice to regain his complete supernatural power. Now he can barely reach the level of a ghost king. Under the beating of the morning stick, he looked extremely miserable. Aside. Black and white impermanence. There was complete astonishment on their faces. Then he reacted suddenly. This supernatural lord is deceiving them. Think of this. Hey, Vachain was furious. Sir, we are here to help you, said. He also rushed forward. Vachain looked at his good brother who was starting to fight against others, and he was also eager to give it a try. Beating up a top ghost king, he was also the master of supernatural beings from all over the country. This feeling of fighting against others seems to be pretty good. Then, Master, I'm here to help too. Half an hour later, the dying vampire count fell to the ground. Seems weak. He was completely dumbfounded. Ever since he became the top ghost king and built the vampire castle, he had always been the only one to attack others. Who would have thought that one day he would be beaten by two little ghost kings and a human together? He swore that when he recovered, he would kill all three people present and use them as a blood bank to let them taste the torture of watching his blood dripping all the time. Just thinking about it? Shenjian also took back the morning stick. A look of relief. Subsequently, Shenjian pumped up his big dick. Asked, tell me, where is the human being responsible for providing you with sacrifices? He has not forgotten his other grudge. Count Vampire? He was slightly startled. What humans? Isn't this dog in front of him the only human he knows? Still sheltering. Shenjian has bad eyesight and a big mouth. The vampire count's face turned red. He said angrily, human beings can be killed and cannot be humiliated. I don't know what you are talking about. Do you think the noble vampire count needs to take the initiative to find humans? You are slandering my reputation out of thin air. Snap. Shenjian slapped him twice again. You're quite arrogant. I don't know if you can say you don't know. You have to say something stubborn to me. Count Vampire. The fist is hard. You slapped me twice without saying a word, and then you ask me to talk properly? If my strength hadn't been restored, I would have let you see what the top ghost king's wrath is. But considering his current situation, the vampire count still suppressed his inner anger and roared, human, I really don't know that there are other humans helping me provide sacrifices. I hand all these to my blood slaves, the butler will take care of it. If you want to find it, you should go to him. Hear this? Shenjian nodded with satisfaction. Another loudmouth passed by. Count Vampire. His eyes widened. As if to say, I've already said it, why the hell are you still hitting me? Shenjian said casually, it went smoothly, please be careful next time. Damn it. This human being deserves to die. At this time, Shenjian seemed to be feeling something. He looked toward the entrance of the cave. I saw a white-haired butler in a tuxedo standing there in shock. Next to him, Wang Hai, the player with the ID Chang Kong, was also watching all this in horror. I am inferior. They were just out for a trip. Home was stolen. The base was destroyed by the enemy. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 414. At this time, both the housekeeper of Rose Manor and the player Wang Hai were dumbfounded. I went out looking for sacrifices, but when I came back I found that my home had been blown up. Even the coffin was lifted out. This is too overwhelming. Inadvertently, when the housekeeper of the Rose Manor saw the figure lying on the ground with a bruised nose and face, he felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His eyes were dull and he said, Master, why are you lying on the ground and beaten like this? What? The face of Wang Hai, the player with the ID Chang Kong, also changed. He was already confused when he saw that Shenjian was still alive and appeared at the mission location. Now he was told that the figure who was beaten until he was lying on the ground like a dead dog was the owner of the vampire castle and one of the replicas of this place. Host. What a joke. This is impossible. That was the owner of a 4-star supernatural copy, a terrifying existence at the top Ghost King level. In the entire Nanjiang district, there were very few people more powerful than this vampire count. Even if it is flat, there are not many. How could such a top Ghost King end up like this? He didn't believe it. Yes, it's the master. I still remember that the clothes on the master were the clothes he wore when he became the city lord of Nanjiang district. It symbolizes the honor of the master. There is no reason to pretend. The white-haired butler fell into reminiscing. It seems to recall the scene of fighting with the master. Count Vampire. What the hell, is it appropriate to say this at this time? Think of this. The former city lord of Nanjiang district, despite his injuries, shook his head crazily and said, "No, I am not the wise and powerful master of the vampire castle with hands and eyes that reach the sky." His back molars were almost broken. It was obvious that he had notified him in advance and asked the butler to stay by his side and not let anyone set foot here. I didn't expect that the other party would be so derelict in their duties. 1 hour. He had just been beaten by these 3 dogs for a full hour. Does anyone know how he spent this hour? The vampire count wanted to cry without tears. Anyway, he would never admit that he was the master here. The head can be cut off or bleeding can occur, but the face cannot be lost. Even if the ancestor is here today, don't let him embarrass himself. The other side. Shen Jian was not used to it either. Snapped. He took his penis down and slapped it on the head of the vampire count. "How dare you lie in front of me? Who gave you the courage?" Shen Jian cursed. This vampire count is dishonest. Strong medicine is necessary. Otherwise, if you are brought back to the 18th level of hell, you will definitely be in a state of chaos. White-haired butler. Wang Hai. Looking at this scene. The butler was not sure now. The master in his impression was not a coward. He wouldn't be so humiliated by a human being that he wouldn't dare to fight back. Are you really the master? The master of the vampire castle. The vampire count was about to deny it, but he saw Shen Jian staring at him dangerously and casually taking out a ghost knife. Count Vampire. Grass. He cursed secretly, feeling that he could not even keep his last bit of dignity. But under the threat, he still spoke in humiliation. "If you are talking about the owner of the vampire castle who was attacked by evil people because of his unrecovered injuries, and was defeated by 1 against 3, I think, that should be me." Finished. The dungeon master of the vampire castle looked gloomy. The vision was bleak. Snapped. Shen Jian slapped him again. "Damn it, human being, I've told the truth and I'm the supernatural master here, what else do you want?" The frustrated Count Vampire was very angry. "If you don't admit it, you hit me, but I admit it and you still hit me. Do you think I, the former Nanjiang city lord, don't have any temper at all? Are you teaching me how to do things?" Shen Jian glanced at the other party. The vampire count immediately lowered his head, his eyes were splitting, but he did not dare to refute. He could only grit his teeth and said, "I don't dare." "It's okay if you don't dare. Know your position clearly," Shen Jian said casually. At this time, the white-haired butler finally reacted. Believing that the person lying on the ground was the master he had served for decades, and seeing his master being so humiliated, the great butler's face was distorted and ferocious, and the terrifying supernatural being that was infinitely close to the unsolvable level ghost swept over him. "Human, you dare to hit my master? You know you are." The butler's voice was cold. "The words have not yet finished." Snapped. Shen Jian took the photo for the 3rd time. "So what if I get beaten?" Count Vampire. Chief Butler. Finished. Shen Jian glanced at the player beside him. "Think about it," he said casually. "Brother, why are you still standing there? Our plan of holding the emperor hostage to control the princes has been completed, you don't need to pretend anymore. Butler? Wang Hai? Damn it! Why did this horse riding get involved with me again? The gods took advantage of the emperor to order the princes. I don't even know such a thing. Wang Hai, the player with the ID Chang Kong, frowned subconsciously. What does Shen Jian want to do? He doesn't think that with his gaming level and strength, he is qualified to be Shen Jian's eldest brother. Not to mention, in order to escape guilt, he specifically made Shen Jian a scapegoat. How could the other party be so kind to him? Until, from the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of the white-haired butler beside him, whose expression was gradually changing. His expression changed drastically. Just ready to explain. I saw the butler's expression turn gloomy. A bloody ghost hand reached out and grabbed his neck. Then, 2 big slaps were given. So powerful. Just 2 slaps made his whole face red and swollen. There was a burning pain on my face. Okay, it's a good way to lure the tiger away from the mountain, but it doesn't matter, human being. Your eldest brother is in my hands now. I want to rescue him and exchange his master with me, otherwise I will break up. The white-haired butler smiled sadly. Human, you should definitely not do this. It's because you talked too much at this moment that I caught the last clue. See it? Shen Jian's expression changed drastically and he yelled angrily, "You beast, how dare you hit my elder brother? No, I have to fight back." Finished. Shen Jian walked up with his penis in his arms and slapped the vampire count 3 times in the face. Then he glared angrily, "Let go of my brother." Butler. His eyes were full of anger. Damn it! Damn this human being! He actually beat his noble master. Human, you still fight? If you dare to hit my master, I will hit your big brother. Snap, snap, snap. 4 big slaps hit Wang Hai's face. It can be seen that the other party is really angry. No mercy was shown. If Wang Hai hadn't been a 4-star player and controlled the 3 ghost jigsaw puzzles, he would have been killed by such continuous slaps. Aside. Black and white are impermanent, and the vampire count can't help but grin. For a moment, they couldn't tell whether Shen Jian wanted to save his good brother, or whether he wanted to trick the other party. There is no way to save people like this. The other side. Shen Jian saw that the scolding had no effect. His face turned red with anxiety. Then, the big hand directly pinched the vampire count's neck and shouted angrily, "I'll say it again, will you let him go? If you don't let him go, I will break your master's neck." Not to be outdone, the chief steward also raised Wang Hai in front of Shen Jian, whose bloody ghost hands had already pinched the other man's neck. "I'm exerting slight force. You can see that this player is really struggling. I want to say something at the same time. Really hummed up. You guys are fighting, don't get involved with me. Big, butler, I have nothing to do with that Yama. He just wants me to die. Don't fall into the trap." Wang Hai spoke with difficulty. "Haha, do you think I believe it? If you hadn't transferred me and revealed the location here to this human being, how could he have caught my master? Stop making excuses." The butler sneered. "Don't believe it at all. There is indeed such a thing as coincidence. But when there are enough coincidences, it becomes design. And now, he was designed. They fell into the trap of these humans to lure the tiger away from the mountain. He regretted it. Wang Hai. Grass. This is really a deaf man beating a blind man, I can't explain it clearly. He himself didn't know where Shen Jian got these clues. At this time, Shen Jian became excited. "Brother, don't be afraid. His master's life is not as tough as yours. It will definitely be his master who dies first. Hear this. Wang Hai. He only felt that the hand holding his neck became harder and harder. His face turned green. Damn it, thank you so much. Tougher than life? Then come and try, your elder brother will definitely not be able to hold on first. The chief steward also snorted coldly. The ghost hand became harder and harder. For a while, the atmosphere on the field was extremely weird. Shen Jian pinched the vampire count's neck and glared angrily. The white-haired butler pinched the player Wang Hai's neck and smiled sinisterly. But the big housekeeper seemed to have forgotten that the other party took a breath. Just under 2 minutes. Click. As a voice sounded. The player with the ID Chang Kong had his neck pinched. He died on the spot. The butler curled his lips and said, "It seems that you have lost. This big brother of yours is really intolerant of fun." Said. He threw the body directly. However, he noticed a supernatural way to save his life in Wang Hai's body, and now there is a high probability that it is just a fake death. But this is good, let the human being see his own methods, and I believe that he will not dare to bet on this possibility with himself in the future. This will also increase the chance of getting the owner back. No. See it? Shen Jian shouted. Brother, I'm here to save you. Thunder comes. The words fell. Shining white arcs shot out from Shen Jian's palm. Keep bombarding the body of good brother. Trying to use thunder and lightning to replace the effect of the pacemaker and wake up the opponent. Wake up, wake up. The sky was filled with thunder and lightning, and bursts of green smoke were rising. Its terrifying and abnormal energy fluctuations filled the entire cave. Until a few breaths later. A weak voice was the timely reminder, "Sir, he seems scorched. Hear this." Shen Jian stopped what he was doing. He curled his lips and said, "Forget it, we won't save him." Black and white impermanence. Vampire. White-haired butler. It seems that something is wrong. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 415. This moment. There was dead silence. Looking at Shen Jian not far away, who was constantly using white arcs to commit murderous crime acts, whether it was black and white impermanence, the vampire count, or the white-haired butler, they were completely dumbfounded. Are you saving people? Are you riding a horse to save people? Do humans nowadays call corpse abuse as saving lives? Especially the white-haired butler, who looked confused. When he pinched Wang Hai's neck, he noticed a special supernatural fluctuation. He guessed that the human being had some kind of resurrection method that could bring him back to life. But what the hell are you doing? With this thunder and lightning attack, I'm afraid even if the god of thunder comes over, he will be furious in the northwest. You are not saving your elder brother, you are clearly sending him off for the last time. Soon. Shen Jian stopped what he was doing. Showing regret. I tried my best, but I couldn't save it. Shen Jian became a little excited. The arc in his palm was still crackling, lingering around him. But I must avenge my brother. Said. Shen Jian looked at the white-haired butler. But think about it. He still turned his attention to the vampire count. Your housekeeper killed my eldest brother, then I will kill you too. Count Vampire? His whole body was in a mess. No. What the hell is your logic? My blood slave killed your eldest brother, you seek revenge on him. What do you want from me? I am just a theater goer when I step on a horse. Can this also involve me? You are really not a human being. The vampire earl's eyes were splitting, and his whole face was purple. What happened to this human being was his bad luck for 8 lifetimes. He admitted it. but he would rather commit suicide than die in the hands of this human being. Otherwise, it would be difficult to have a supernatural recovery. The radiant power of that human being was too terrifying, and had a crushing restraint effect on the yin energy. If he was blasted to death by such a strong and yang energy, it would be up to God to revive him. On the contrary, in the case of suicide, he can accurately predict his recovery time. Then, the vampire count roared with grief and anger, "Dog, dog thing. I will die myself." Finished. He took off his head with humiliation on his face. Force yourself to die in a supernatural conflict. The body gradually fell down. The supernatural fluctuations are getting weaker and weaker. This moment, the air stood still. Black and white impermanence. White-haired butler. They were all stunned. My mouth felt dry and I couldn't help but swallow hard. I've seen crashes, but this was the first time they saw an automatic crash. And the one who is dying is the owner of the vampire castle, a top ghost king. After all, he is also the owner of a famous supernatural place, but he was tortured by a human to the point of committing suicide. For a while, Black and White Vuchang only felt that his knees were a little weak. I couldn't help but want to kneel down and worship. The other side. Shen Jian's eyes gradually became weird. He didn't seem to have done anything excessive to this vampire count. Isn't it just a slap in the face of a dozen big mouths? If you can't even accept such a small grievance, your mental endurance must be too poor. Think of this. Shen Jian's eyes showed a bit of disgust. He opened his mouth to explain, "You have all seen that he committed suicide by himself and it is none of my business." Black and white impermanence. Ah, yes, yes. Brother, everything you said is right. Anyway, the dead will not rise up to refute you again. History books are written by the victors, we all know that. However, at this time, the vampire count, who automatically took off his own head and forced himself to die, suddenly twitched. He held up the last bit of supernatural fluctuations that had not dissipated, and stretched out his hand to write a row of bloody words on the ground. "My killer is a dog human being, Yama." Black and white impermanence. White-haired butler. Shen Jian? The next second, Shen Jian raised his hand expressionlessly. The white arc struck the headless corpse, completely extinguishing the last remaining supernatural fluctuations. Then the bloody words were wiped away with a natural expression. So far, the owner of the vampire castle eventually had his head separated and died of suicide. No, master. Saw this scene. The white-haired butler's grimace became twisted and ferocious. He stared at Shen Jian. He showed a malicious and hateful look. About to speak, Shen Jian had already blasted it with a thunderbolt. Thump. Black smoke rose. An abyss-level ghost that was infinitely close to the unsolvable level existence just fell down. I will never die with my eyes in peace. Gilug. Black and white Vuchang on the side trembled. I couldn't help but swallow. The adults won't kill until they get up, and they will be killed soon. After all, a top ghost king and an abyss-level ghost have already died here, and two more little ghost kings are not far behind. Fortunately, after Shen Jian stuffed the vampire count and the white-haired butler into sacks, he did not cause any more trouble for them, but walked out of here. A satisfied smile appeared on his face. A ghost's small goal was achieved. Adding this one, the 10 ghosts and gods needed to unlock the 18th level of hell are only 5 short of the target. Just right. He knew the clues to the remaining 5 ghosts and gods. Especially the phoenix-robed female ghost. Judging from the speed at which the other party collects moonlight to manifest Huanquan Road, I'm afraid it won't be long before the ghost and god's special copy is opened. He estimated that it would appear within 10 days and a half. Think of this. Shen Jian's smile became even stronger. There is hope in life. At the same time, the Scarlet panel emerged. Hidden mission, rescue the vampire count, failed. It has been detected that the copy master has been lost here. The successor is being selected according to the rules set by the dungeon master. Inheritance conditions, vampire bloodline is the strongest. Seeing the inheritance conditions on the panel, Shen Jian's eyes were slightly stunned. I thought he would have to spend some time to get this property under his name, but I didn't expect that the vampire count had already laid out the inheritance conditions in advance. This was somewhat beyond his expectation. But just right. While thinking, Shen Jian has used the clerical ability of the blood of ghosts and gods to trace the original bloodline of the vampire ancestor. It has been detected that the player King Yama has the bloodline of the vampire ancestor and meets the inheritance conditions. You have inherited the vampire castle. See it? Shen Jian opened the panel. Vampire castle. Heir, King Yama. It is detected that the owner of the copy is a human, and the following permissions will be unlocked. 1. The player is in the vampire castle, and his strength automatically increases by 1 level. 30% of the horror coins produced can be taken away, and the rest is used as dungeon funds. 2. It is detected that this copy is a large 4-star supernatural place. Players can give one-person management authority to govern any forces under the vampire castle and formulate rules. 3. 2 world passages can be opened, limit, 10 people. 4. Player reputation add 100%, status add 100%, power blessing. Available dungeons, Cabin of Horror, 3 stars, Rose Manor, 4 stars, Haunted House Escape, 4 stars to upgrade. Finished reading. Shen Jian withdrew his gaze. The most important thing about inheriting the real estate of the horror world is that you can freely open the dungeon and summon other players to start the game. Every time a copy is opened, it will bring considerable benefits to the owner of the copy. This is especially obvious in Vampire Castle. There is no way to survive in this copy. The only chance is to transform yourself into a vampire and become a member of the horror world. Humans with vampire identities can return to the real world. It is difficult to say whether this is the layout of a thriller game. But even if not, thriller games are destroying this process to a certain extent. He opposes everything his enemies want. Think of this. Shen Jian grinned. He clicked into the copy of Rose Manor. Copy, Rose Manor. Progress, in progress. Number of players, 11. It is detected that a major change has occurred in this copy, and the conditions for ending the copy are met. Whether to end the copy. Yes. Shen Jian said to himself. A total of 15 players entered the Rose Manor dungeon, and 3 of them died. As the owner of the dungeon, he was no longer participating. The remaining 11 players were immediately kicked out of the dungeon by him. Do it all. Shen Jian narrowed his eyes. If you want to suppress the resurgence of the evil ghost, why use the horror game method? The underworld can do this as well. Whether he is using Netherholder's soul cleansing effect to enhance his yin qi, or using the number 1 drug he brought back from the Huangquan Ward dungeon, he can effectively inhibit the recovery process of the evil ghost. He can also use the soul hooking chain to take out all the ghost puzzle pieces in the player's body. Return to normal. In short, just one sentence. What horror games can do, Underworld can do too. What thriller games can't do, Underworld can still do. But it seems that the current Underworld has not publicized this method. Shen Jian was thoughtful. It seems that we need to find an opportunity to catch an unlucky guy and set an example. Let Yang Shi know that the Underworld has this ability. Only in this way can more and more horror game players be attracted. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 416. The next day. This round of game has ended. Congratulations to the player for clearing the Vampire Castle copy. The copy is being settled. Rating, S. Experience gained, 500%. Note, you have been promoted to level 50. Items obtained, Thriller Coin * 5000. Get special rewards, Thriller World Permissions. Note, the player level has reached level 50 and the full map of the horror world has been opened. Players can go to any area on their own and have unlocked all 4-star dungeons. When the mission starts, they can freely choose any dungeon to enter. Get special reward, Vampire Castle. Note, due to the outstanding performance of the player, you have inherited the property, the lineup has been actively changed, and the hidden title, Lord of Vampires, has been unlocked. Vampire Lord, any vampire in the world is your blood descendant, and you can control the life and death of any vampire. Get a special reward, tickets for the Nanjiang District Championship. Note, using this ticket, you can automatically join the epic 5-star copy, Nanjiang District Hegemony. The winner will obtain the Nanjiang District Manager rights and become the only king of the southern region. Real world. Shen Jian opened his eyes. There was a bit of surprise in his eyes. After reaching level 50, Horror World releases new permissions, giving players a certain degree of freedom to choose dungeons. They can choose any 4-star dungeon to enter. This permission is very useful. Great value. Because it means it's okay to cheat. Just like when he cleared the 1-star and 2-star dungeons, there was a Daxia Longke instructor who had mastered most of the information about the dungeon and could lead players to avoid these dangers. Reduce mortality. This is almost as good as a second life for players. It seems that horror games do not want players who can reach level 50 to die randomly. Shen Jian was thoughtful. Check the permissioned content again. No trace of the 5-star copy was found. It seems that level 50 is still unable to participate in this level of game. The only 5-star copy currently known is the Nanjiang District Tournament. There is also a special dungeon of the Phoenix-robed female ghost, which is probably also a 5-star dungeon. Shen Jian fell into deep thought. According to the 3 sisters of the Vampire Castle, the time for the Nanjiang District Championship is not far away, and all the forces in the entire southern region are ready to move. This competition will be extremely grand. Because what is decided is not only the ownership of Nanjiang District, but the entire southern region. To this end, most of the forces that dare to participate have ghost kings who are above the abyss level. This is a grand occasion. Think of this. Shen Jian's heart was agitated. All the forces with abyss-level ghost kings in the entire southern region will participate. How is this different from an open-air buffet? A vampire castle allowed him to gain the indicator of a ghost and god. Even if the scale of the other forces is not as good as the vampire castle, given the huge number, this is still the first choice to unlock the 18 levels of hell. If you don't catch 2 or 3 ghosts and gods, I'm sorry for this dungeon admission ticket. Keep the copy of the ticket as a treasure. Shen Jian returned to the underworld immediately. The underworld. The 18th floor of hell, unlocked. Current progress, 5/10. See this. Shen Jian's eyes flickered. Thinking about the next plan to unlock the 18 levels of hell. If his estimate is correct. It has only been 10 days and a half since the phoenix-robed female ghost completely manifested herself on Huangquan Road. Among the currently known ghosts and gods is a female ghost in phoenix robes. Certainly. That's not all. At least the disaster that could destroy the country of the phoenix-robed female ghost had a high chance to be caused by a ghost. The level of terror will not be lower than that of ghosts and gods. Even if it is higher, it would not be surprising. Otherwise, with the terrifying level of the phoenix-robed female ghost, how could she fail to resurrect again and again? Next up is the Nanjiang District Championship. He had already qualified to participate in this competition a long time ago. But it wasn't until today, after inheriting the property of Vampire Castle, that he officially got the ticket. The difficulty of this can be imagined. 5-star dungeons are called epic dungeons by thriller games for a reason. If you don't have the strength above the Ghost King level, participating in it is courting death. Thinking. A sudden system prompt sounded. Mission: rebuild the underworld. The fourth phase of the mission, taking charge of the 2 cities, completed. Reward: Imperial Order. A bit of surprise flashed in Shen Jian's eyes. Then he showed a satisfied look. There are currently only 2 Changhuang halls. One is in Qingxi and the other is in Binhai City. He originally thought that it would take a while for the new city god, Ghost's sister-in-law, to completely control Binhai, but he didn't expect that it would be completed now. Nearly a month ahead of schedule. It was indeed the right thing to give her the position of city god in the second city god's hall. Shen Jian checked the system rewards. Imperial Decree. Exclusively for the city god. The person who was granted the title was equivalent to leaving his name in the city god's hall and officially joining the underworld. To put it simply, it means becoming a regular employee. In his hands, the imperial decree has more abilities. Edict sealing all things is one of the abilities. After thinking for a while, Shen Jian left the underworld. The appearance of the imperial decree made him think of a way to solve the chaotic situation in Qingxi. There will be chaos in Qingxi. The reason is the resurgence of ghost paintings. But what really pushed the matter to a climax was when he made the ghost gate appear in front of everyone. Let the myths and legends of the underworld come to the world. This caused a nationwide sensation. A large number of ghost controllers, players, and even ordinary people poured into Qing City, causing a big problem in terms of jurisdiction. To this, of course, he needs to solve it. Maybe, you can even pick out an unlucky guy and set an example to let more horror game players know that the underworld is capable of solving the problem of their ghosts resurrecting. Soon, Shen Jian appeared in the Chenghuang Hall. At this time, the ghost teacher came forward and brought a dead soul. Shen Jian looked around. This dead soul still maintains its appearance in life. He looks to be over 80 years old, with a kind face and gray hair. See Shen Jian. He immediately knelt down. He murmured words like Lord City God in his mouth. Shen Jian frowned. What happened? The ghost teacher explained, Sir, he said he came here in a daze. Come over here. Shen Jian was stunned. Then he seemed to think of something. City God sign. This is the system reward after taking control of the land in Qingxi. Talents who are qualified to become Yingke can automatically come to the city god temple to serve. If you guessed correctly, this old man should have been attracted by the Chenghuang road sign. Shen Jian looked at the old man in front of him again. This is the first talent to be guided by the city god's road sign. According to his understanding, the dead souls attracted by the Chenghuang road sign were all good people during their lives and had meritorious deeds. Such talents can be trained to become city gods, whether they become evil agents or they can be cultivated. But today, Shen Jian has a new choice. Are you willing to become the mountain god here? Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 417. Mountain, Mountain God. The old man's eyes were confused. His name is Song Liang, and he is an out-and-out ordinary citizen of Qing City. He is committed to improving the local environment and has devoted most of his life to managing mountains and forests. He had no suffering in his life, and died in a state of disgrace. After his death, he came to the city god's hall in a daze. I met the legendary city god. He had heard the legend about the city god from his grandson in the past few months. I heard that the city god is the patron saint of Qingxi. It is precisely because of the protection of the city god that the people here can live and work in peace and contentment, and every household is safe. He also heard that cities outside Qingxi were in dire straits and were invaded by dirty things and ghosts. There are ghosts in this world. This is what he has heard his grandson mention the most. Now, he heard another term that only existed in historical myths. Mountain god. The city god wants to be his mountain god? Yes, there is a mountain range where Qing City and Binhai City are connected, called Qingyu Mountain. If you are willing, you can become the mountain god of this place and record all the abnormal things in these two cities. Of course, if you don't want to, you can also become a scapegoat. Shen Jian nodded. He also held a book of charity in his hand. He has an imperial decree and can decree all things. In principle, the mountain gods are similar to those with bull heads and horse faces, black and white and impermanent, and are indirectly governed by the king of hell. And the mountain god is not a yin god, but a type of god. It is regarded as a minor god, governed by the city god and indirectly controlled by the king of hell. This type of little god is like the other eye of the city god, responsible for recording all movements within the mountains and forests under its jurisdiction. Some small movements can be reported to yin difference for processing. For example, supernatural events such as the resurrection of evil ghosts. If there are some major accidents, they will go to the city god's hall in person and report to the city god to solve the problem. As for strength, the mountain god is not good at fighting, and in myths and legends, his abilities are not as good as those of the top 10 yin gods such as the bull-headed horse-faced man and the black and white Vuchang. However, the mountain god has clear eyes and ears and can record anything. In layman's terms, a mountain god is like a local observer. Certainly. If the 5 sacred mountains were sealed by imperial decree, in charge of the 5 mountains, just pretend he didn't say the words "the mountain god is too weak." But right now, he only needs a mountain god from Qingyu Mountain to help him deal with the current chaotic situation in Qingxi. I will not consider the matter of the 5 mountains for the time being. The city god's temple can collect local prayers and understand the wishes of the people, but it cannot stop man-made supernatural events. You need to use the ability of the mountain god. I do. The old man Song Liang said respectfully. Qingyu Mountain has been his effort to manage for most of his life. He couldn't be more willing to become the mountain god of this place. Follow me. Shen Jian was not surprised. Taking the other party with him, he appeared on the outskirts of Qingxi in a few steps. He appeared among the mountains. All around are greenery. The old man looked at the painstaking efforts that he had spent most of his life in front of him, and he knelt down on one knee with great happiness. Shen Jian's face was expressionless. Raise your hand and wave. A golden rune appeared. Today, I order you to be the mountain god of Qingyu Mountain. The words fell. The runes poured into the old man's soul, and gold overflowed in an instant. Immediately afterwards, the old man blended into the underground. There are invisible forces in the mountains that converge towards the mountain god like a long river and sink into his body. Soon, the old man resurfaced. There was a symbol on his forehead that the imperial seal had been completed. It symbolizes that he has become the mountain god of the place. Became a little god here. Good job. Shen Jian nodded with satisfaction. I will obey the orders of Lord Yama. The old man Song Liang said respectfully in a deep voice. At the moment he was banned, he understood Shen Jian's identity. It is not a local city god, but the current lord of the underworld. Yama. This identity is too scary. Even though he had become a mountain god, he still felt a sense of palpitation standing in front of Shen Jian. Try to see how far your ears and eyes can extend. Shen Jian said casually. This is the first time he has consecrated a mountain god. He needs to decide the subsequent plan based on the mountain god's ability. Yes. The old man looked in all directions. Although he was clearly looking at the front, his eyes reflected the entire Qingyu Mountain, and the distance gradually extended to the city. Shen Jian waited quietly. Until 10 minutes later. The old man finally spoke, "Sir, with my current limit, I can only focus on observing one city. If I need to govern Qing City and Binhai City at the same time, it will appear to be powerless." Enough. Hear this. A smile appeared on Shen Jian's face. Although there is a city god's temple in Binhai City, a large number of ghost controllers, horror game players, and ordinary people gather in Qingxi. As long as the problems in Qingxi are solved, other cities will be easy to manage. Starting from today, you will be responsible for promptly reporting any emergencies that have occurred in Qing City to the City God's Hall. I will obey the orders of Lord Yama. The old man whispered. The body slowly blends into the mountain. Be with the mountains and forests. But there seemed to be a hint of sadness that couldn't be resolved in his eyes. At the same time, Shen Jian returned to the City God's Hall in a good mood. Currently, in Qing City, under the governance of the City God's Palace, there are very few cases of evil ghosts resurrecting. Even if they happen, they can be dealt with as quickly as possible. On the contrary, it is a man-made supernatural event, which is more difficult to deal with. After all, Li Gui only knows how to kill people. But the ghost controller, the horror game player, knows how to avoid being noticed by the City God's Palace as much as possible. If it is not dealt with, a loophole will be drilled out of Qingxi sooner or later. He identified Xianzhu as the contact person between Daxia Longke and the underworld for this reason. But for now, Xianzhu was sent out by him to find the heads of Manchuo ghosts and gods, but it seemed beyond his reach to deal with the problem of Qingxi. The appearance of the mountain god solved this problem. As long as the underworld catches a few waves of typical people, these chaos will naturally disappear. Thinking. A message from a friend caught Shen Jian's attention. "Zhou Ci, boss, these ghost masters from out of town are too arrogant and domineering. They regard the rules of Qingxi as nothing. There have been many supernatural and maiming incidents. Zhou Ci, but these people are very monkey-like. They know that Qingxi is the headquarters of the underworld. They don't kill people, they only maim people. Even if they use supernatural powers, they will determine the winner in a short time and will not cause the underworld at all of attention." Mengda, yes, great God, if this continues, the order of Qing City will collapse sooner or later. Although there is the underworld, such transcendent existences will not pay too much attention to the small fights of the ghost controllers. As a matter of fact, these people took a fancy to this point, and that's why they dared to do such perverse things. Look at the chat interface. Shen Jian narrowed his eyes. "King Yama, let's talk about it in detail." "Zhou Ci, it's the ghost control group in Okura City. Because of the deliberate connivance of the city leader, these people have become more and more rampant. Even Daxia Longqiao doesn't take it seriously, especially that person. The brother of the city leader is so domineering that he dares to steal the supernatural props from our Qingxi players." Mengda, yes, master. You should also know that the person in charge of Okura City is one of the top 10 ghost masters recognized by the supernatural circle. He has a very high status in the supernatural circle, and the 3 powerful ghosts he controls are very special. It is said that he has the ability to escape unscathed from the hands of Ghost King level ghosts. Shen Jian frowned. He doesn't know the person in charge of Okura City, and he doesn't know. But he knew about Okura City. It is a first-tier city. To be the person in charge of this place, the other party must have real abilities. It is somewhat credible to say that he can escape from the Ghost King's hands unharmed. Thinking. Shen Jian suddenly thought of something. Ask. "King Yama, what are they called?" "Zhou Ci." Mengda. Look at this line of writing. The corners of their mouths twitched. Damn it. Daking boss, you don't even know the other person. That is one of the top 10 ghost masters in the supernatural circle. It is impossible for any horror game player not to know their names. After all, those people are so popular. Famous for a long time. But when they thought about Shen Jian's many actions in the ghost painting copy, they suddenly felt that, I don't know, it seemed more reasonable. Compared with the strength shown by Shen Jian to crush the Ghost King level, the so-called top ghost controller is not enough to beat him with a stick. Zhou Ci, the person in charge of Okura City, is called Wang Feng, and his younger brother is called Wang Hao. Boss, have you come back from the thriller game? We, the members of the King of Yama Fan Support Club, have always wanted to meet you. Mengda, yes, Great Master, Qing City is now twisted into a rope, and it lacks a backbone. If you show up, all the players in Qing City will have a sense of belonging. See this. Shen Jian summoned the good and evil spectrum, and at the same time the merit spectrum was also displayed. Searching for the information he needs. Soon, 2 lines of data appear. Wang Feng, the person in charge of Okura City, appears in evil spectrum. His younger brother Wang Hao appears in the merit tree. A strange smile appeared on Shen Jian's face. He was just about to set an example, but unexpectedly the other party hit him at gunpoint. Appearing in the merit spectrum means that heinous crimes will not be forgiven. The younger brother of the person in charge of Okura City, there is no doubt that he is a humanoid mobile meritorious person who can gain merits by killing him. On the contrary, although the person in charge of Okura City is on the evil spectrum, he is not extremely evil. Most of his crimes are basically related to protecting his younger brother. But the sin is just as great. It is a sin in itself to shelter a heinous person and let him go out to cause harm to society. Especially knowing that his brother will commit crimes and still allowing him to act unbridled is no different from a heinous crime. King Yama, where are you now? Zhou Ci, boss, we are at the scene of the incident. Wang Hao secretly used his supernatural power to remove a player's arm and planned to snatch the supernatural props. Now we are blocking him to prevent him from leaving. Look at the position where the other person sent it. Shen Jian looked stunned. This location seems a bit familiar. He remembered where he had seen it. Think about it. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. Remembered. He had seen this address before when he opened the good book and wanted to know the life of the old man who was led here by the Chenghuang Road sign and judge whether he could take over the position of the mountain god of Qingyu Mountain. The mountain god of Qingyu Mountain who had just been enthroned by him seemed to live at the coordinates displayed on the chat interface. Shen Jian tilted his head, thoughtfully. To rob the belongings of the relevant family members of the underworld under the nose of the underworld, I have to say that the other party is very courageous. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigua. Chapter 418. Anping Community. Zhou Ci and Mengda looked at the game chat interface with excited expressions. Although Shen Jian didn't explicitly say that he wanted to come over, judging from the other party's tacit attitude, it was very likely that he would come over. After all, the matter involves 2 city leaders. Needless to say, Shen Jian is the person in charge of Qingxi and the most popular player on the paranormal forum. There are faint signs of being praised as the #1 paranormal person. In the eyes of insiders like them, Shen Jian is the #1 supernatural person. In the ghost painting copy, easily suppressing and imprisoning the Ghost King is something that no one in the current supernatural circle has been able to do. Wang Feng, another person in charge of Okura City, is also not a simple figure. He is recognized as one of the top 10 ghost masters in the supernatural circle and stands at the forefront of the times. At home in the horror world. It is said that the other party has the ability to escape safely from the Ghost King. Although it is not as good as Shen Jian, it is still on the same level. Facing a city leader of this level, only Shen Jian, who is also the city leader, can handle it. At this time, an arrogant voice sounded in their ears. Get out of the way. This matter has nothing to do with you, Kingshi. This is a grudge between the two of us in a thriller game. You have no right to interfere. The speaker was a young man wearing colorful casual clothes. The other party's attitude was very arrogant. An unruly look. Zhou Xi and Meng De remained calm. This person is Wang Hao, the younger brother of Wang Feng, the person in charge of Okura City whom they mentioned earlier. He is also a horror game player. Although he is only a 2-star player, he has mastered the ghost puzzle and became a ghost master. As for the cause of this matter, it is very simple. Wang Hao competed with a player for supernatural props in the game copy, lost, and then went offline to take revenge. This kind of thing is very common. In the dungeon, players dare not take action at will because of the threat of the evil ghost. But back in the real world, this hidden danger no longer exists. Naturally, some people will be unable to hold back their revenge and prepare to kill someone offline. The two looked at each other again. Not far away stood an ordinary-looking young man with an arm missing. The strange thing is that the removed arm is flat, as if there were no arms in the first place. The young man looked at Wang Hao, his eyes almost splitting. But he didn't dare to make the slightest move. At this time, Wang Hao said disdainfully, "Song Yi, you are quite arrogant in the dungeon. You dare to cut off any supernatural props that I like. If this was not Kingshi, what was just removed was not your arm, but your head." The young man said coldly, "I got that first." "Tisk, so what?" Wang Hao said indifferently, then looked at Zhou Xi and Meng De who were blocking his way, and said in a sinister tone, "Get out of the way, I didn't kill him, I have already given you enough face, if you stop me again, you will not be counted as a Samsung player, you should be careful about any accidents when you walk home in the future." Hear this. The two frowned. A 2-star player dared to threaten 2 3-star players. Even if they are both ghost masters, with 1 against 2, the opponent has no chance of winning. But they know. This Wang Hao has the arrogance and the ability to threaten them. Just because his brother is the person in charge of Okura City and a top 4-star player. He also has a luxurious team of ghost masters under his command. It would be easy to invite a 4-star player to quietly launch a supernatural sneak attack on them. Before, they definitely wouldn't have dared to stop him. But now, that's different. Zhou Xi said forcefully, "When you come to Kingshi, you must abide by the rules of Kingshi. The use of supernatural powers is not allowed here, and all supernatural attacks are prohibited. What's more, you attack our Kingshi players indiscriminately. If you are allowed to leave, could it be that someone misunderstood that Kingshi was afraid of Okurashi?" Meng De also said in a low voice, "Where did you get the courage to threaten us? Just because you are a ghost master? Do you really think that you are the only one special in this world? See it?" Wang Hao's expression froze at first, and then his attitude became arrogant again as if he had discovered something. At the same time, Zhou Xi and Meng De suddenly realized that everything around them had changed. The sky dimmed, the nearby tall buildings disappeared, the weeds turned into flat ground, the busy community turned into an abandoned open space, and there was a cold atmosphere in the air. Everything has changed dramatically. Their expressions changed suddenly. Ghostland. Someone uses the ghost domain. Changed the landscape here. Also hide this place. The two looked at each other. At the end of the abandoned clearing, 7 or 8 figures walked out. The leader was wearing a windbreaker and a peaked cap. His face seemed a little stiff, as if the skin on his face would break if he moved even slightly. He raised his head, revealing a face that was very similar to Wang Hao. Zhou Xi and Meng De took a deep breath. The person in charge of Okura City, Wang Feng. Unexpectedly, the other party also came. And have been paying attention to the situation here. Now there's trouble. They are currently trapped in the ghost land, and they don't know when Shen Jian will arrive. If they miss the opportunity and wait for the other party to return to Okura City, then the matter may be over. Brother, you are here. Wang Hao looked happy. He looked at Zhou Ci and Mengda with a solemn tone. As if to say, try to stop another one? You two, give me some face. This is just a small matter. We can compensate the player so that he will no longer pursue this matter. Wang Feng's face was stiff. The words that came out were like a ghost speaking. The voice was cold and hoarse. Hear this. Zhou Ci and Mengda fell silent. Do they dare not to give face to a city leader? At a quick glance, none of the 8 figures who came out were rated lower than 3 stars, especially the player who used Ghost Domain. He was definitely a 4-star player. This one alone is not something that the 2 3-star players can resist, not to mention that the person in charge of Okura City has not shown any supernatural abilities. Facing such a lineup, even a 4-star player has to show respect. No. There was a bit of silence and a moment of struggle. Zhou Ci said seriously. No one can forgive Qingxi's rules. Wang Hao's actions have seriously affected the order of Qingxi. If everyone is like him, then Qingxi's rules will become a joke. As soon as these words came out, there was dead silence. Over in Okura City, many people had a look of surprise in their eyes, followed by ridicule, disdain, or even sneer. Damn it! Do you really think their boss is having good intentions? Isn't this just an ultimatum? How could these 2 people have the courage to refuse? They said modestly, these 2 people really regarded themselves as people. Okura City players all looked sarcastic. Get ready for jokes. Reject me? Have you thought clearly? Wang Feng also looked stunned, and the coldness in his words became more and more obvious. Do you think there is an underworld in Qingxi, so we dare not take action against you? If you really think so, then you are too stupid. The underworld only deals with the resurrection of ghosts. If you want to find the abnormality here, it will take at least half an hour. You think you can hold on in my hands for half an hour? Or are you waiting for the person in charge of Qing City? I really don't want to offend that person, but as I said, if he wants to support him, it will take time, and this little time is enough for me to erase all traces. Hear the words. Zhou Ci and Mengda look stern. That's what they're worried about. Although Shen Jian has the intention to take action. But Okura City is obviously a step ahead. If you want to solve them, you don't even need 3 seconds. By the time Shen Jian's support arrives, the traces of them may have disappeared long ago. At that time, the ghost realm will disperse. Everything seemed silent. When Shen Jian came, he could only stare. What to do? The 2 looked at each other. They all saw the struggle in each other's eyes. If Wang Hao is let go today, then Qingxi's rules will really be abolished. Anyway, as long as there is a background, it can be ignored. And if you can't even protect the players in your own city, how many people will have a sense of belonging here? As a member of Qingxi, they naturally don't want to see this happen. Boss, when will you arrive? We can't delay it any longer. The 2 of them waited anxiously in their hearts. It seems you made a stupid decision. In that case, goodbye. Seeing that the 2 of them didn't respond for a long time, Wang Feng also lost his patience. His face looked gloomy. The words fell. The player controlling the ghost realm had a grim look on his face. Just bury the 2 here. But the next moment, a change occurred. Everything around him was covered in a layer of scarlet light. Abandoned vacant lots are disappearing. The original appearance of the community was restored. What happened? Wang Feng's face froze. Behind him, a pale-faced player said in horror, "Boss, someone invaded and disintegrated my ghost domain, and I was suppressed." See this. The expressions of the other players in Okura City also changed in shock. In less than 2 seconds, a 4-star player's ghost domain was invaded and destroyed. This supernatural power is quite astonishing. At this time, a cold voice sounded. You are very brave to attack my people on my territory. The words fell. Shen Jian's figure suddenly appeared in the community. On the back of his hand, 7 scarlet eyes moved restlessly. The ghost rope on his wrist became more and more strange, forming a circle, like a noose used to hang people. Shen Jian. Is he the mysterious person in charge of Qing City? Codenamed Yama. Yes, that's him. His wrist is tied with a bloody hemp rope. The supernatural forum's description of his image is very accurate. Players in Okura City were on alert one by one. Ready for war. This is the most famous player on the paranormal forum, and he is showing signs of being praised as the #1 paranormal person. Various deeds, rumors, and rumors about him have always been very popular in supernatural forums. Perhaps most people have never met Shen Jian, but his reputation is unknown to everyone in the supernatural circle. Yamluo, I can make up for this, and if you do it here, it will attract the attention of the underworld. Even if you are the person in charge here, in front of the underworld, you are no different from me. Wang Feng also looked solemn. He didn't expect that Shen Jian could find him so quickly. Although he didn't think Shen Jian was better than him, he didn't want to offend too much when facing a player who was obviously at the same level as himself. Hope there are other ways to solve the problem at hand. Otherwise, once a war breaks out, it will definitely attract the attention of the underworld. Shen Jian turned a deaf ear and looked indifferent. Take it step by step. He stared at the player who just cast Ghost Domain and said in a faint tone. I said before, the use of all supernatural powers is prohibited in Qing City. Violators will die. Shen Jian raised his hand. 5 fingers. A bright white arc condensed in his palm. The brilliant power of heaven is manifesting. Le Fa take xiao. The words fell. A bright white light suddenly appeared. A white electric snake shot out, like a thunder of divine punishment that annihilated everything. Everything along the way turned into powder. Smoke, dust, stones, and even the air all disappeared at this moment. Boom! Accompanied by a roar of thunder. Screams sounded. A charred corpse had fallen in front of everyone. It was the 4-star player who had just used Ghost Realm. Kingshi, I cover you, understand? Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 419. Thump. A charred corpse fell. This seemed to cause a chain reaction, shocking everyone in the room. Die, die. A 4-star player who owned a ghost realm died like this? This. That moment. The scene was silent. The player from Okura City widened his eyes and looked at his friend who had turned into ashes with a pale face. Then he looked at the scene where white thunder and lightning burst out from the palm of his hand, killing a 4-star player directly. Damn it! What kind of special effects are you talking about? Rifa. You humming use Taoism in this weird world, right? With such a big game, you are not afraid of being banned? All players were in an uproar. The aura and mystery that had been accumulated before were completely lost under this thunder method. Became speculative and restless. Even Wang Feng, the leader of Okura City, looked dumbfounded. The stiff face showed obvious emotional fluctuations at this moment. My heart was in turmoil. Rifa. There is actually a thunder method in this world. As one of the top ghost masters in the supernatural circle, he has tried to mitigate the threat posed by the resurgence of evil ghosts through real-world means. To this end, he has been to Longhu Mountain, Mission, Tianqi Mansion, and also searched for contemporary Tianqi. After the myth of the underworld came, he also walked through Kunlun Mountain, Taihang Mountain, and the peaks of the 5 mountains, looking for clues to the revival of the myth. But finally he came to a conclusion. It's all futile superstition. The arrival of the underworld was just an accident. Legendary Taoism, spells, talismans, even gods, heaven, and other things that only exist in mythology and history, all have no effect. This era seems to have ushered in only one underworld. But now, he actually fought. Killing a 4-star player with one strike is definitely a right thing to do. Think of this. Wang Feng's heart was filled with turmoil. The thing he had been searching for to no avail now appeared in someone else. This gap made him feel extremely unbalanced. What made his heart even more gloomy was Shen Jian's attitude. Kill his right-hand man at the slightest disagreement, and the other party has no intention of talking about it. In this case, they are in big trouble. Yamluo, you dare to kill people here. You are committing a crime now, do you know? Wang Feng had a gloomy face. Leng shouted. He didn't understand how Shen Jian dared to directly kill people in Qingxi. Although he is the person in charge here, from the perspective of the supernatural circle, Qingxi is the base camp of the underworld and the first place to recover. Everything here has been fully taken over by the city god's palace. The so-called person in charge of Qing City is just a false name. Doesn't have any real power. If you kill people openly here, I'm afraid it won't take a moment or 3 for the underworld to show up and take Shen Jian to hell. Hear this. Shen Jian's eyes looked a little strange. A finger moved. The arc follows. White light suddenly appeared. What are you talking about? Didn't God kill him because he couldn't stand it? God will not hurt any good person, nor let go of any bad person. Shen Jian said calmly. Now, let me see who will be killed by God next. Okura City player. Wang Feng. Grass. Oh my God. You just called out your name. Do you think we are deaf? What's more, even if we are deaf, we are not blind. When we don't understand, it was you who summoned the thunder. Everyone's eyes were splitting. My whole body was tense. Afraid of becoming the next target. The power of the brilliant thunder cannot be resisted by them controlling 1 or 2 ghost puzzle pieces. The result of stubborn resistance is to become a coke on the ground. You, Yamluo, you are trying to kill yourself. Such a big movement just now must have been noticed by the undercover people in the city god's palace. In a few minutes, they will appear here, and then your end will be, enter the 18th level of hell and endure the pain of purgatory. Wang Feng's stiff face finally changed. Showing some fear. After a few silences, he said in a hoarse voice, what happened today is indeed something I did in Okura City that was unethical. We will be responsible for repairing the broken arm of that little brother and compensate him with 10 million yuan in compensation. The money is enough to buy a good supernatural prop from his black market. This matter has been revealed. Aichi and Okura City have always been friends. Hear this. Wang Hao, who had always been arrogant and domineering, changed his expression and was about to speak when he was stared back by his eldest brother's stiff face that looked like a demon. I can only bow my head in frustration. Yamluo, what do you think of this approach? Wang Feng said with a smile. The person in charge of Qingxi is suspected of possessing legendary Taoist and magical powers. This is absolutely incredible news. If it can be confirmed that the existence of Taoist and supernatural powers really exists, it means that there are still myths and legends in the world, but they are not known yet. Shen Jian nodded. It's very good and quite sincere. That's good, let's. Wang Feng smiled. However, the words have not yet fallen. Shen Jian had already interrupted, but, does this have anything to do with you violating Qingxi's rules? I said that the use of supernatural powers is prohibited in Qing City, especially if the use of supernatural powers poses a threat to this place. Are you going to hand him over yourself, or should I let God kill him? Shen Jian's voice was faint. The words that come out are like the howling wind of hell, like the god of death handing out his sickle. Hear this. The expressions of everyone present suddenly changed. Except for the 4-star player who was hacked to death by Shen Jian in the first place, Wang Hao was the only one among them who had used supernatural powers within Qing City and removed a player's arm. According to Shen Jian, this is a capital crime. Brother, you can't ignore me. I'm your only brother. Wang Hao looked at Shen Jian with hateful eyes, but when he met Shen Jian's deep eyes, he lowered his head in fear, grabbed Wang Feng's arm, and begged. Wang Feng's face looked uncertain, but thought about it. Still suppressing the shock and anger in his heart, he said in a deep voice, Yamluo, your rules are outrageous. No city has ever had a rule that people who use supernatural powers will die. Then you see it now. Shenjian, the old Shinto. In this era of strange resurgences and mysterious arrivals, it is indeed outrageous to have a supernatural power but not be able to use it. But there is a premise, that is, the city you are in is unsafe. However, King Shi does not have this problem. Under the governance of the Chenghuang Temple, the probability of supernatural events in King Shi has been less than 1%. Frequently, supernatural events are caught and brought to justice before they begin to ferment. In this case, it is not difficult not to use the supernatural. Not to mention, this is the base camp where the underworld comes to the Yang world. The Gate of Ghosts is located at the entrance of Qingxi Expressway. If you change the angle, this place is equivalent to Fengdu City, where the underworld is in the human world. What happened to the restricted use of supernatural beings? Not convinced? You. Seeing Shen Jian's reaction, Wang Feng's back teeth were almost broken. This Yama is really out of touch with oil and salt. Determined to get people. Yamluo, keep a line in your life so that we can meet each other easily in the future. If you give me convenience today, I will also give you face when you come to Okura City in the future. Wang Feng said seriously. Shen Jian's face was expressionless. Just raised his palm. Indifferently said, in that case, let's see if God forgives him. If God has no objection, then I have nothing to say. The words fell. A white thunder fell from the sky. It hit Wang Hao with a frightened expression. Ah! Accompanied by a scream. Another charred corpse slowly fell. It seems God is not going to forgive him. Shen Jian said seriously. Okura City player. Zhou Ci. Mengda. The corners of their mouths twitched. You are really capable of talking nonsense. Wasn't it you who made that thunder? If you want to kill him, just say so, why beat around the bush? Think of this. Everyone looked at Wang Feng's reaction. After all, it was Wang Feng's younger brother who died. Especially the players in Okura City, they know that their boss is very tolerant of this younger brother, even to the point of shielding him. If they want to start a war with Shen Jian here, they don't know if Shen Jian is in trouble, but more than half of them will definitely fall into trouble here. Very good, Yama, this matter is indeed my brother's fault. He is also dead now. We can leave. Wang Feng's eyes were about to burst and he was gnashing his teeth. Please, by the way, remember to pay. Shen Jian said casually. Let's go. Wang Feng took a deep look at Shen Jian and turned to leave. Until all these Okura City players are gone. Mengda Ki jumped out and said with a worried look, Master, you shouldn't let them go. I'm sure they will wait for an opportunity to retaliate in the future, especially Wang Feng. His eyes don't look like he will let you go, Master. Look. Zhou Ci shook his head, there is no other way. We can't leave a city leader here, not to mention that there are 6 or 7 players around him. We don't know what kind of supernatural powers he has. Once he is right, it will be very difficult. Moreover, there is an underworld here. Once a large-scale supernatural outbreak occurs, No one can escape the involvement. Otherwise, do you think Wang Feng will leave so easily? Hear this. Shen Jian narrowed his eyes. He said casually, "Don't worry, they can't retaliate against you, and they won't have a chance to retaliate." Finished. Shen Jian was in the doubtful gazes of the two people. Go to the victim at the scene. Your name is Song Yi? Is your grandfather Song Liang? Shen Jian looked at the young man with a broken arm. Eyes twinkling. Song Liang was the mountain god of Qingyu Mountain whom he consecrated. The young man in front of me is the grandson of the old man. They can also be regarded as family members related to the underworld. He had also seen this in the Book of Goodness. Yes. The young man looked at Shen Jian with fiery eyes. He is also a thriller game player, so he naturally knows Shen Jian's reputation. It seemed that Shen Jian knew his grandfather. But he knew very well that grandpa was just an ordinary person. And died 2 days ago. There is absolutely no connection with the person in charge of Qingxi who is in full swing. When is your grandfather's funeral? After 1 day. Hear the words. Shen Jian nodded. Show that you know. And using Yinggui's supernatural power, he helped the opponent's arm to be spliced. Boss, do you know my grandfather? The young man hesitated. Shen Jian was non-committal. On the day of the funeral, you will know that your grandfather is also mine, and I am very satisfied with his performance. Said. Shen Jian turned and left. His words were not comfort, but really satisfied. As the mountain god of Qingyu Mountain, the other party was always paying attention to the movements of Qingxi, so he must have known that his family was being targeted. After the edict was completed at that time, if the mountain god proposed to him the idea of helping his family, he would definitely not refuse. But the other party didn't say anything. He didn't help himself secretly. Instead, he chose to report it to the city god's hall first. Apart from anything else, at least the other party did not violate the rules set by the underworld. That being the case, then he would also give the other party a big gift. If you become a bad person in the underworld, even if you die, your family will be safe and prosperous for eternity. This is a good entry point. Shen Jian nodded with satisfaction. The other side. The players in Okura City who were already preparing to leave Qing City were watching their boss look back nervously. Boss, even if you want to take revenge, there is no need to rush. Yes, we have made too much noise today. If we stay any longer, sooner or later the underworld will attract evil forces, and then the gains will outweigh the losses. Boss, we can discuss this in the long run after we go back. Let's not talk about Yama for now, but we can quietly deal with the 2 pony boys around him. That's right, 2 3-star players dared to stop us. If it weren't for them, we would have left just now. Players come up with ideas. He was admonishing the boss to leave quickly. Don't worry, I'm not that irrational. As for that Yama, I will take revenge myself. Wang Feng's eyes turned red. His eyes were even colder. Then. Next moment. A gust of wind blew. 2 figures with very different statures came over. One black and one white. Long tongue had. It was cold in all directions as he walked around, and a hint of breath inadvertently leaked out, which made people feel intimidated and made their bodies tremble. Black and white are impermanent. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigua. Chapter 420. Family members, who knows? While walking on the road, I suddenly bumped into 2 people, no, I bumped into 2 vicious men. That moment, the whole place exploded. I just felt a chill running straight from the soles of my feet to Tianlingai. I saw 2 figures with very different statures walking slowly in the distance. One of them was wearing a white robe and an official hat with the 4 words "Get Rich in Life" written on it. His face was pale and bloodless, with a smile on his face, a long tongue hanging straight down, and holding a white bone rod with fluttering white ribbons. The other one, wearing a black robe and a black official hat, had the words "Peace in the World" written on it. The same long tongue was hanging down. He was holding a black bone stick and had a chain around his waist that made the sound of metal collision. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of heavy metal clashing seemed to resound in their minds, striking their hearts violently. The Okura City players' pupils shrank one by one, and goosebumps suddenly appeared all over their bodies. Black and white, impermanence. See this. All the players' scalps were numb, and they felt like their Tianling Gai was about to fly away. The two figures walking towards each other looked very much like the legendary black and white impermanence. No. To be more precise, this is black and white. It's a secret agent sent by the underworld. Fierce ghosts seduce the souls, and impermanence demands lives. Who is not familiar with these 8 characters? Seeing the impermanence of black and white, they don't think anything good can happen. Not to mention, they clearly understood that they had just done something that would cause trouble in the underworld. Damn it, I told you to leave quickly. At this time, one player from Okura City couldn't stand it any longer. Roared out uncontrollably. Being targeted by the underworld, there is no possibility of escaping. His life has just begun. How could he be willing to be caught in the underworld and go to the 18th level of hell? Thinking of the various tortures in the 18th level of hell, the look of fear on this player's face became even more intense. Hear this. The other players also showed a look of panic. Although they did not break their defenses, they could not calm down at all. My heart is about to jump out. The other side. After being scolded by his subordinates, Wang Feng, the person in charge of Okura City, also looked gloomy, and his stiff face was very ugly at this time, but he knew that how to deal with the underworld's evil situation was the key at the moment. If one of them is not good, they might have to keep them all. Then, Wang Feng made a preemptive strike. Master Black and White, the person in charge of Qing City, killed people in the area of the City God's Hall without authorization. His sin is serious and unforgivable. Moreover, he owns the ghost domain. After killing people, he can quickly leave the scene. If we go after him now, it's still too late. Hey Vuchang. Bye Vuchang. Hear this. The facial muscles of the two ghosts twitched slightly. Silly dog, you sued our immediate boss in front of us. You're quite brave. If you can walk out of here safe and sound, it will be us who will be punished later. Think of this. Black and White spoke at the same time. For a moment, a cold and sinister laughter echoed. The evil ghost seduces the soul, and the impermanence threatens the life. Something happened to you, said. Black and White impermanence takes off the soul enchanting chain. Count the crimes of these people one by one. Wang Fengzhu has done many evil things, condoned the criminals, indirectly killed 70 people, and encouraged the criminals' arrogance. He is no different from the criminals. Following the order of the King of Hell, I will take away your 46 years of life, your strength, and your reputation. Punish sin. The voice was as bright as a call from heaven. Wang Feng's mind was stunned for a moment. He has done many evil things. Is he guilty of the same crime as the criminal? To take away his life, his power, his reputation? What a joke. Why should he let others take away everything he had worked so hard for with just a word? He will never obey. Think of this. Wang Feng roared. Mist is constantly seeping out from the whole body, and the stiff face is as fragile as ceramics, with signs of cracking. Ridiculous. Hey Vuchang sneered disdainfully. In the horror world, he can't beat Shenjian, the eldest lady of the vampire castle, ghost painting, and the vampire count, but catching a human is not easy. What's more, he still has the underworld weapon given by Shen Jian in his hand. This is much stronger than a ghost weapon. If he had such a weapon in his hand, even the abyss-level Ghost King would not be his opponent. Wow! The clanging sound of soul-enchanting chains sounded. Under Wang Feng's horrified gaze, the black chain penetrated his body. Pull it out. The evil spirit inside the body was pulled away. Lifespan has also been taken away. Just a moment. The person in charge of Okura City, who was only in his early 30s, had turned into a wrinkled old man with gray hair and loose teeth. The body is empty. Not only is the strength gone, even the supernatural power is gone. He completely turned into a lonely old man who was slow to move. See this. The other players all lost their souls one by one. Grass. According to the charges pronounced by He Vucheng, none of them can escape. After all, they were all aware of Wang Hao's murder. Most of them had killed people like Wang Hao. According to the charges, none of them can escape. Master Impermanence, please spare my life. We were all forced to do so. We subjectively had no intention of committing a crime. The players screamed and fled in tacit agreement. But less than 3 minutes. Black and White Vucheng left with the soul-enchanting chain that had a dozen or so evil ghosts scurrying around. All that was left was a group of old people kneeling on the ground crying. On the road. Bai Vucheng curled his lips and said, "Brother, according to your punishment, these people are all going to die. Why do you want to keep them alive for half a year?" He Vucheng explained, "It's very simple. When you work in a haunted house, is the fear caused by directly dismembering the other person stronger, or is the fear caused by giving the other person hope little by little and then slowly destroying the hope more intense? Take away the lifespan, take away the power, and then publish the evidence of their crimes, so that these people can slowly experience the torture of death after having nothing left. And there are 2 benefits to doing this. 1. Let everyone know how stupid it is to go against the will of the underworld in Qingxi. 2nd, give these people half a year, and everyone will check that there are no ghost jigsaw puzzles in these people's bodies, and they have returned to the state of normal people. This plays a vital role in increasing the attractiveness of the underworld." He Vucheng talks eloquently. Hear this. Bai Vucheng was stunned. Damn it! When did his good brother become so smart? He even guessed the deep-seated intentions of the adults. Is this still his good big brother? Bai Vucheng couldn't help asking, "Brother, are these all your guesses?" "Oh, no," I shamelessly asked. "After all, this is our first mission. I was afraid of making mistakes, so I asked for more details." He Vucheng looked as usual. "Bai Vucheng? Grass. Then what the hell do you mean by inferring on your own? I almost thought you were going to grow a brain. Scared me." Bai Vucheng breathed a sigh of relief. Regarding the fact that his eldest brother wants to grow a brain, he still can't accept it, so he can just fake it. "Wait, we have been together all this time, when did you ask the adults?" He Vucheng shrugged and said, "While you are immersed in the 18-ban comics of the human world. I #U0026 @. The other side." The players in Okura City who were left behind by Black and White stopped crying one by one. It's not that they don't want to continue, it's just that their strength doesn't allow it. The prolonged crying made their already weak bodies even weaker. I almost fainted. "It's over, it's all over." A player with all his teeth muttered with dull eyes. "Having taken away my 53 years of life, and coupled with my own age, I am afraid that my end will be within a year. If I still have supernatural powers, I still have a chance to survive, but now, everything is gone." Hear this. The other players all regretted it. Terrified. This kind of despair and powerlessness that has no power and can only watch the countdown of one's life, is enough to defeat anyone. There's still hope, there's still hope. At this time, the old Wang Feng shouted at the top of his voice. Back to Okura City, Daxia Ryagia will not let us die. Otherwise, without us people, Okura City will be destroyed by supernatural events sooner or later. Yes, once we die, who will govern Okura, a first-tier city? Yes, the stability that Okura City has today is all due to us. Even if you don't look at the monk's face, you have to look at the Buddha's face. This time the underworld is completely abusing lynching. Damn it, the underworld is holding King Shi's sword to kill our people in Okura. Their territory does not include ours, so why should they execute us? The underworld is so powerful, they can kill whoever they want. In the future, this world will just let them have it. Everyone said something to me, venting anger. Subsequently, their group of old people returned to Okura City. Came to the local Daxia Lanke. Unlike the Great Summer Dragon Bird Organization in Kingshi or other places, the Great Summer Dragon Bird Organization in Okura City has not been able to develop at all and has no apparent effect at all. All of these. Naturally, it was the result of Wang Feng, the city leader. But now, they had to come to Daxia Lanke to seek help. The most important thing is to find harmless ghost puzzles for them to control. Only by regaining their supernatural power can they enter the horror game to find hope and survive. However, just when they reported the situation and went home to wait for news, a group of heavily armed Daxia Dragon Bird members broke into their residence. What are you doing? Wang Feng looked angrily at the officials who broke into his villa. He had never taken this group of people seriously before. In Okura City, he is God. His orders are the instructions a city carries out. And now, however, his residence was broken into by a group of weak Daxia Dragon Bird members, and he did not have the strength to resist. Wang Feng, you have been removed from the headquarters for 23 crimes. You will spend the rest of your life in prison and interrogation rooms. The instructor of Okura City announced the final result. I have to say that you made a bad move. Before you returned, the newly appointed inspector had already listed all your crimes and was waiting for you to come back. By the way, let me remind you that this inspector is a living agent of the underworld. He represents the attitude of the underworld. You have been arrested. Hear this. Wang Feng looked in disbelief. He was arrested? No, this is impossible. I am the city manager of Okura City. Even the headquarters cannot convict me casually and frame me based on one-sided words, cough cough. Wang Feng roared. The old body couldn't help coughing violently. He knew that he was finished. Completely played. You are not unjust. You are the first city leader to survive after being tried by the underworld. You are of great significance. As these words fell, Wang Feng was carried away. No. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chigua. Chapter 421. King Shi City God's Hall. Shen Jian opened the pages of the good and evil records condensed by the city god's wonderful method, as well as the system rewarded merit records. This is the core of the Cheng Huang Temple. Recruit people who do great good, warn people who do great evil, and punish those who do evil without mercy. At this time, Black and White Vuchain returned with a chain of evil ghost puzzle pieces. They stood respectfully at the entrance of the temple and bowed. Sir, according to your wishes, all the lifespans of Wang Feng and other 8 people have been taken away, and the remaining half-year has not been taken. He Vuchain told the incident one by one. Shen Jian nodded. Those whose merits and deeds are recorded will be killed if they commit heinous crimes. Those who have a record of evil deeds and have committed many evil deeds will go to the first level of the 18 levels of hell after death and enter the hearse hell. In fact, with the exception of one Wang Hao, the evil deeds of the other players in Okura City did not reach the level of asking Hell Black and White to do it themselves. At most, they took away their lifespan and left them to fend for themselves. But who allowed these people to appear in the Qingxi area and have conflicts with family members related to the underworld? A typical example was right in front of him, and he had no reason not to grasp it. Then, this is how black and white impermanence demands life. Certainly. The focus of this matter is not the process of claiming life, but the follow-up. After Yu Wangfeng and others returned to Okura City. Counting the time, Daxia Longke headquarters should have discovered that all the ghost puzzle pieces in Wangfeng and others were gone. Shen Jian pondered. There was a bit of a smile on his face. Want to suppress the resurgence of the evil ghost? Just come to the underworld. The little bastard's method in the thriller game is not as efficient, harmless, and permanent as the underworld's method. Sir, do you have any more orders? He Vucheng's respectful voice came again. Shen Jian came back to his senses, moved his mouth slightly, and said slowly, "You did a good job. You also go to the netherworld pond to wash away the yin energy and reshape the yin body. After that, go to the funeral of the mountain god." Yes. Black and White looked at each other. Mountain god, I heard that it was a coincidence that he joined the company at the same time as them. Although he is a human being, he has now been decreed to be a minor god. And in actual status, this mountain god of Qingyu Mountain oversees all supernatural movements in Qingxi. And where is Qingxi? The first stop to the underworld. It is also the office of the King of Hell. Put it in the underworld, this is Fengdu. Being able to supervise Fengdu, one can imagine how high the status of this mountain god is. According to the parlance of the human world, this position is equivalent to the head of the Jinyi Guard, a close confidant of the emperor. Think of this. Black and White Vucheng's eyes showed a bit of envy. That human being is so lucky. At the right time, I happened to meet someone who needed this position. Forget about it. Thinking about it is just envy. I heard that if you take a dip in the netherworld pond, you can be promoted to the abyss-level Ghost King, so you have to go and see it quickly. Think of this. He Vucheng dragged by Vucheng, who wanted to escape, back to the underworld. After soaking in netherworld pond. They still have to make an appearance, so they can't be careless. Damn it, brother, I never saw you so active when I was in the haunted house before. I need to touch the fish. What nonsense. If anything goes wrong at your funeral tomorrow, I will immediately delete the messy collection of information you collected. After the black and white impermanence left, Shen Jian began to consider subsequent development plans. Today's underworld is steadily expanding. In addition to Qingxi and Binhai City, he ordered a group of ghost kings such as the son of the river god, the leader of the Wangui sect, and the bull-headed horse-face to go to the adjacent cities to build the city god temple more than a month ago. Thinking about it now, it's almost time to harvest. At that time, the jurisdiction of the underworld will be expanded to the 6 cities. Bring more territory under the control of the underworld. 6 cities, this is not the current limit of the underworld. He needs more. Think of this. Shen Jian's emotions were ups and downs. I'm in a good mood today, and I really want to play the horror game again to catch ghosts. Shen Jian sighed. The next day. Today is a special day. 27, it's time to be buried. Until the day of the funeral, Song Yi's mind was still echoing yesterday's scene. Half a year ago, he was selected by the thriller game and became a player. But in a dungeon, he met Wang Hao, who was already a ghost master. Although he finally captured the supernatural props, he was found by Wang Hao in the real world. And caused a fatal disaster. If Shen Jian hadn't appeared, he would have been a dead man. but he was still puzzled by the fact that Shen Jian knew his deceased grandfather. From what Shen Jian said, it seemed that his grandfather worked under the person in charge of Qingxi. But he asked his parents and other relatives, and everyone said they didn't know. I don't even know who Shen Jian is. I haven't heard Grandpa mention this person either. With this doubt, he followed his family to the burial place. Then, I saw many people wearing black clothes standing at the burial site. These people seemed to be here for his grandfather's funeral. What happened? These people are also here to hold the old man's funeral. How can the old man, a forest ranger, have such great connections? The relatives around him started talking in low voices one by one. Song Yi took a look. Recognized several people. There were Zhou Xi and Mengda who stood up for him yesterday, Qian Quan from the Daxia Longke Qingxi branch, the richest man in Qingxi, and many players who exuded obscure yin energy fluctuations. There is no doubt that these people are all related to horror games. What happened? Does his grandfather have any mysterious identity that warrants so many people attending the funeral? Little did I know. He was wondering. The other side was also confused. Discussed quietly. Isn't it said that this family is related to the mysterious person in charge of Qing City? They don't look special. They are all ordinary people, and the only one is only a first-time two-star player. It's really nothing surprising. Is it worth asking Yama to ask about the funeral time for a two-star player? Well, can't we say there was something special about the deceased old man? They are all dead. No matter how special it is, what's the use? And I didn't find any supernatural aura in the coffin. This shows that the old man is just an ordinary person. I guess we are too sensitive. This is just an ordinary funeral. Everyone has different opinions. His eyes suddenly fell on Zhou Xi and Mengda. Because the original source of the news came from these two people. Zhou Xi. Mengda. The corners of their mouths twitched. They don't know either. And they only told the members of the King of Yama fans club about this. Who knows where you people came from? Each one of them is quite capable of being a spy. Soon, the funeral began. Everyone watched this funeral in silence. Until a gust of cold wind blew. At the entrance to the cemetery, there is a hazy mist filled with a blue light. Da-da. Along with it, there were footsteps. From far to near, the footsteps are obviously very slow, but the distance of the footsteps is very far apart, which is weird and boundless. This moment, all the mourners heard the sound. Ordinary people are confused. The players and related personnel were shocked. Supernatural event. The next moment. In the mist. Two figures, one black and one white, walked out. Holding a white bone stick in his hand, the white strips are flying in the wind, with a sense of desolation and loneliness, as if a lonely soul is crying on it. Everyone's heart trembled. He stared blankly at the scene in front of him. The other side. Black and white impermanents stared at everyone present. They had smiles on their faces. The King of Hell has an order. After the death of Song Liang, he was blessed with great merits and deeds. He was granted the title of Mountain God of Qingyu Mountain. His body was buried in the territory of Qingxi and protected by the underworld, making him immortal. By then, Surfunyo, we can ensure prosperity for several lifetimes. Black and white, impermanent language. His words fell. In the direction of the city god's hall, a golden light pierced the sky. Submerged in the coffin. This moment. Everyone was stunned. Especially the quiet words of black and white impermanence made everyone present confused and their brains went blank. The order of the King of Hell? Declare the mountain god of Qingyu Mountain? The corpse is immortal, protected by the underworld, and blessed for future generations. What a blessing this is! Until the black and white impermanence leaves? Everyone present felt as if they had just woken up from a dream. The shock in my heart could not be suppressed for a long time. Especially the family members at the funeral felt like they were in a dream. Because of his meritorious deeds, the old man was named a mountain god by the legendary Lord Yama. This sounds like a fairy tale. But the black and white impermanence that comes and goes without a trace cannot be explained by common sense at all. Perhaps, that is really black and white. Also shocked was Qian Quan of Daxia branch. He naturally understood that all this was what Shenjian meant. But Qingyu Mountain, isn't this the mountain range on the outskirts of Qingxi? In other words, that mountain range now has a god. No matter how small a god is, he is still a god. It is the myth that shines into reality. And Shenjian, who was granted the title of mountain god, is even more of a myth among myths. The funeral is over. The Song family members were still in a daze. As you can see, the richest man in Qingxi came to me just now to negotiate a big deal worth several hundred million, but I'm just a pancake seller. What are you talking about? My eldest sister is just a sanitation worker, but the superiors directly asked her to be the person in charge of the health center. And that boy Song Yi, I heard that the official personally invited him to join an important department and serve as the real leader of Qing City. The old man has been with the mountains and forests all his life. Unexpectedly, after his death, he was selected by the King of Hell and became a mountain god. We are all familiar with Qingyu Mountain. When we were young, the old man often took us there to instill in us the concept of forest protection. You think, if we go to Qingyu Mountain now, can we meet the old man? Everyone in the Song family was full of excitement. Because the Song family is going to be prosperous. This. Just because of Lord Yama's words. Qingyu Mountain. The old man Song Liang appeared in the mountains and forests. Everything in Qingxi, except the city god's hall, is under his supervision. Naturally, he also saw this scene. There was deep gratitude in his eyes. He bowed respectfully to the location of the city god's hall. The entire Qingyu Mountain seemed to be following his actions, worshipping the city god's hall, or someone in the city god's hall. Pilgrimage to the mountains. Shenjian seemed to feel something. He glanced in the direction of Qingyu Mountain. Smile. Nothing to do today, just looking for fun. Then. Shenjian came to the Chenghuang Temple in Binhai City. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 422. The mountain god matter is over. Shenjian was sitting idle in the city god's hall. First, he gave the underworld solution to the resurgence of evil ghosts, and then took the mountain god's incident as an opportunity to promote a wave of work benefits in the underworld. Next, it's all about waiting. Thinking. Shenjian has arrived at the Chenghuang Temple in Binhai City. At the moment, there were only 10 days and a half left before the special dungeon of the phoenix-robed female ghost. He did not plan to enter the thriller game again. After all, this did not have a countdown like the Ghost City dungeon, so he had to be safer. Otherwise, if he missed this copy, he would have to sit up and slap himself while he was asleep. As for the construction of the city god temple, it is also in progress simultaneously. Previously, because the foundation of the underworld was not deep, he adopted the method of steady expansion. Prepare to expand the boundaries of each city. But now, the number of yin difference in the underworld is enough to support 2 or even 3 6 cities. Even if it covers a province, the current yin difference reserve is sufficient. Perhaps his expansion plan can be more radical? Shenjian was thoughtful. Enter the city god's hall. There are 2 graceful figures in the empty palace. His eyes lit up. Lu Rong, the ghost's sister-in-law, looked delicate and elegant in a cyan cheongsam that showed off her figure. She sat on the city god's throne and browsed through the compiled prayer list. Mark the locations of some suspected supernatural events, and then ask the housekeeper to pass them over to Yinchi to investigate the situation. I can't say I have no ability. Further down, Ghost Aunt Yelan is a beautiful woman wearing a white cheongsam, exuding a dignified temperament in her manners. She looks much older than Ghost's sister-in-law, but she still has a look that is not inferior to that of any woman. Refined and firm skin. A little cinnabar mole between the eyebrows adds a bit of charm. Shen Jian's eyes lit up. Because she is not yet an official city god, sister-in-law Ghost does not have her own exclusive city god suit, but it is precisely because of this that she can show off her unique personal style. See Shen Jian. The two women in the palace had different reactions. The Ghost's sister-in-law is a surprise. Aunt Ghost was shy and lowered her head. Smelly brother, you are here, has the matter been resolved? The Ghost's sister-in-law came over. Shen Jian smiled, of course, but what surprises me even more is that you have already condensed a 9th-level merit body into a golden body, which is very efficient. He was a little emotional. In his opinion, if he wanted to condense a 9th-grade golden body of merit and become a true god of incense and fire, he would need to kill at least 30 heinous people. While the Ghost's sister-in-law was in charge of Binhai City, she still had time to kill the heinous people one by one. This efficient way of doing things surprised him. Hearing Shen Jian's praise, the Ghost's sister-in-law smiled sweetly. He took Shen Jian and walked to the secret base. Time flies. Shen Jian is checking the progress with Xianju. This living person who he personally invited to join is now the patrol envoy of Daxia Longke, and has the privilege of supervising the people in charge of cities across the country, killing them first and then reporting them. It is a medium for communication between the underworld and Daxia Longke. And he once gave the other party a task. That is to find the head of the Manchuo ghost and god that he chopped off. Great God, during this period of time, I combined the confidential documents within Daxia Longke to find clues to the head of this ghost and god. Oh! Master, I guess this head should be in the hands of the Fallen Angel organization. Shen Jian was a little surprised when he heard the voice coming from the phone. Fallen Angel organization? I haven't heard this name for a while. Ever since he destroyed the headquarters of the Fallen Angels organization and killed 12 angels, the organization has been almost extinct and can no longer make any waves. I didn't expect to hear this name again now. Tell me more specifically. Since the headquarters of the Fallen Angel organization was wiped out by the underworld, all members of this organization have been transferred to the dark side. However, according to the information obtained by Daxia Longke, the leader of the organization, the ghost controller codenamed Haze Angel, is still alive. And has been secretly preparing a certain plan. Xianju's words are eloquent. It is reported that the name of this project is Angel's Coming, and according to the intelligence, this Haze Angel is suspected of possessing the relics of ghosts and gods. I suspect that this is the head of Mondo ghosts and gods that you are looking for, great God. Hear this. Shen Jian was thoughtful. The leader of the Fallen Angel organization, he remembered. After entering the headquarters of the Fallen Angel organization, the masked leader of the organization decisively committed suicide in front of him, piercing his heart with a supernatural dagger, annihilating his own vitality, and making it impossible for him to use the life and death spectrum to trace the source. And the leader of the organization also mentioned to him about faith. He also told him that he was not the only ghost and god in this world. Think of this. Shen Jian's lips curved into a smile. Create a god of incense and fire with faith? Or the legendary angel? Interesting idea. If the other party could really create a ghost-level angel, then he would really like to thank the other party for helping him add a spot. Any more? Yes, Master, have you ever heard of the copy of Vampire Castle? During the investigation, I discovered that there is a group of blood slaves very similar to vampires in the real world. These people are funding the Fallen Angel organization to build the Angel Project. The source of these vampires seems to be the vampire castle in the horror world. Daxialonke unanimously believes that some aliens who have been transformed into vampires have returned to the real world and have begun to actively cultivate blood slaves. They have secretly transformed many ordinary people. People take orders from them. Nowadays, the targets of these people seem to be focused on the city god's temple. It's hard to say whether Vampire Castle is behind all this and extending its hands to the real world. Xianju's voice was very serious. After becoming an inspector, she discovered that the situation in the real world was not at all simpler than the horror world. In addition to vampires, Daxialonke also discovered werewolves, zombies, and other aliens with the ability to transform ordinary people in some provinces across the country. These aliens are also human beings. He is a ghost with human consciousness. Compared with their identity as human beings, these aliens seem to recognize their identity as ghosts more, and they are plotting in secret to provoke turmoil in the real world. Shenjian narrowed his eyes. He is familiar with Vampire Castle. Thinking. A chat interface interrupted Shenjian's thoughts. Blue sky and white clouds, boss, the Chenghuang Temple in Tongluo City was destroyed and someone was killed due to some conspiracy. The situation is very dangerous. Shenjian?